Alright, this presentation is on electrical safety, and with that comes ladder safety and elevated surface safety. Just a quick intro. The electrical will generally take place during the mechanical, HVAC, and plumbing. During this time, there's a lot of overhead work, so the struck by hazards are common, as there's a lot of overhead piping, ducting, conduits that are being installed in the ceiling. Power tools are often associated with these hazards. They create tripping hazards, and also as you're doing that overhead work, it's a little dangerous if it was to fall out of a worker's hands. Rough-in for electrical systems. Rough-ins include the service mains, the installation of the service mains, wiring, panels, conduits, fittings, outlet cables, and transformers. There's also going to be rough-ins for the plumbing and mechanical as well. Safety for the rough-in. Ladders are a big portion of that, of course. As I mentioned, it's overhead work. Ladders are a very common piece of equipment that are used in construction. So that's kind of the reason why it's one of the main sources of equipment that lead to injury or death. To reduce these chances of injury or death, some contractors might want to use other means to get up in those elevated places. But if you do have to use a ladder, you should use whatever means necessary to avoid those. Self-supported ladders are great as opposed to ladders that you might lean against a wall. Besides ladders, lifts or scaffolds are also often employed during this time. Wall and ceiling framing. Wall and ceiling framing should coordinate with mechanical, electrical, and plumbing rough-ins. Electrical rough-ins usually take place before the framing and drywall. During this time, framing, hand and power tools should be inspected for proper maintenance, proper use, and protective equipment should be used. Any training that needs to be employed would also be done before this as well. The finishes, electrical finishes install switches, connecting receptacles, light fixtures, light duty devices, heavy duty devices, controls, and appliances. It also includes circuit testing to ensure proper connections and the compatibility of installed components. During the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing finish contract, the finish contractors must adhere to sequencing of tests recommended by the corresponding system manufacturers. Electrical shock is a big threat during this time. How to avoid electrical hazards. Of course, look out for those overhead power lines and buried power line indicators. Post warning signs wherever you can. Contact utilities for buried power line locations. Always have someone come out and tell you where those lines are if you don't know. Stay at least 10 feet away from overhead power lines. Assume all overhead lines are energized unless informed otherwise. Make sure you ask your supervisor or whoever the electrical subcontractor might be. De-energize and ground lines when working near them. One could also guard or insulate the lines. Use non-conductive wood or fiberglass ladders when adhering near power lines, or when working near power lines.